Well, good morning. What a beautiful day it is. And something occurred to me actually yesterday, and I wanted to do this video to really touch on something that I think is actually very important. And that is the coupling of both business and family. Now, I know so much business related content out there is just focused on the business and about working hard, working on the right things in the business, and it's all very critical and all very important. The problem with it is I think it caters almost exclusively, or certainly feels like it does, to people who don't have a family to consider. So I'll give you my example from yesterday and what spurred this entire video. So we had organised kids soccer day. I had work to go and do. I was going to go off and do work. The family was going to go do the kids soccer stuff. I wanted to be there, but we have something that has to be done today. And there were certain things that needed to be done yesterday to make today happen. So that was all going to work. Then some dates changed and some timing changed for yesterday. And it meant that my wife couldn't take the kids over to the soccer stuff. So they were either going to have to miss out, be there for only a couple of minutes and miss out on the social interaction. And then this other event had to happen and it was just going to mess the whole day up for them. And so I had a decision to make, which was I still need to get the work done that I needed to have done for today. Do I just say, sorry kids, things have changed, you're just going to have to miss out? Or do I put aside, not do, but just put aside for a few hours what I needed to get done, knowing that I was going to have to work extremely late last night to get everything completed, but to make it a priority to be there for the kids because they only get to be kids once. The social interaction is very, very important for them to be able to hang out with friends and be part of the soccer team and that sort of thing. And it made me realize that I could be a lot further ahead in business if I sacrificed the family completely. They don't make sacrifices for the business to exist the way it does, but there has to be an agreed upon level of compromise as to what that. And there has to be the point at which you decide that it is going to be beneficial for everybody and an acceptable level of risk and, sacrifice for you to do certain things in the business. And then there needs to be times when you are prepared to and agree to sacrifice the business stuff to take care of the family. And I really feel it's a conversation that's not spoken about enough because, sure, if you're 19, 20, don't have a family, don't have kids involved, you've got a partner or a girlfriend, even if you're young and married, but you're both in that business journey and you're powering along together, that is phenomenal, and I wish you all the best. But for a lot of us, there is a family, there are kids who don't get this, they just want to be kids. And I think it is very important to manage both. And so while I 100% agree in the whole idea of working very hard on the right things in your business to be able to get ahead, I think that has to apply to both business and personal life. You need to work hard, and yesterday was a really good example. I had to work really hard and really late to get done what needed to be done, but I chose to put myself in that position because I wanted to make sure that my kids got what they needed earlier in the day. It was going to put my day out, but that was a cost I was prepared to pay. And so there are other times when it has to be a no. There are things that have to happen and, hey, sorry, I'm just not going to be able to make it this time. But trying to navigate that at a point so that it is an acceptable level of risk to be taking on for both you and the family. And it, in my opinion, is something that you have to discuss. You have to sit down and go, how much are we prepared to do this? Is this next thing that I'm planning okay? here's what needs to happen in the business over the next month or two. Involve your spouse or your partner in your planning strategy for the business. Let them be part of, okay, I have these meetings, I'm going to have to go to these places. See, for us, and I've not mentioned this publicly at this point, but we are planning to be in the US towards the end of this year. Now, originally we'd wanted to go to catch up with friends, something we'd wanted to do for years, and we could afford to do it this year, so it was like, that would be great. We're also planning to do the business expansion into the US this year. And so the family one was kind of like, oh, maybe we'll do it next year. Like, we can afford to do it, but maybe we'll do it next year. Then the business stuff came up, and it became a case of, well, why don't we all go? We'll combine the two events. We will do the business work. We will do the family thing that we wanted to do, and let's just all go together. And so that's what we've now laid out. That will be what we're doing. And so it's, in my opinion, being able to find ways to make everything about both your business and your personal world beneficial for everybody involved, and for everybody to understand that there is a level of risk involved. There is a level of sacrifice involved for the journey that you are going on as a family. The other thing that I find really, really cool, and I'm so thankful to be in this position, that my kids are starting to develop an interest in business. And so rather than going, hey, you're too young, or just get through school and then we'll worry about all this stuff later, this is just my thing, I try to actively include them in conversations. We discuss things about business. As they get curious, I stop and I spend the time to discuss things with them. I have an office set up at home that I try to do a lot of my work out of. And unless I'm on a call, my door's open. My kids can come in and ask me questions if they're having a bad day or they've had a fight with their sibling and need to come and talk to me. That my door's open, because they are priorities. And I always want them to feel as priorities, and not just to go, Dad's just busy for the next 15 hours, don't talk to me. And so I think we've really got to understand, especially if we have families or we're planning on having families, you need to strategize having the family as part of your business planning, because it's so easy to just get focused on the business. And I did this. And I'll share a little story here, because I wasn't going to share this, but this led me to close most of my business down at one point. I basically packed up, went from running a company and a sole trading business that was working hand in hand. We were working across 3 states, had stuff going on everywhere, and I shut the entire thing down and went back to just working on my own. And what triggered that was my eldest daughter at 4 years old. I was leaving for work in the morning, and I was an electrician, solar installer, off just doing my trade work. And I was working locally this week. Now, I did a lot of away work. I was all over the place. But this particular week I was working locally, so I was just gone for the day and I'd be back home. And of course I'm running the business and I'm running the company and I'm running all this other stuff. Not knowing how to run a business, mind you. I was just doing stuff, mainly quoting, trying to win jobs, trying to figure out why we couldn't win certain jobs, and everything was a bit of a mess. Anyway, I try to sneak out of the house so I don't wake the kids in the morning. And my eldest comes charging out of the house in tears, not hysterical, but very much crying, Daddy, do you have to leave? Do you have to go? Do you have to go? And I felt bad. And I said, yeah, look, I've got to go to work. This is what I do. I'll be back this afternoon. And still crying, I had my child look up at me, dead in the eyes, and look at me and go, Daddy, are you ever coming home? And that broke me, because what that just revealed to me is I may have physically come home of an afternoon. I hadn't been around for my kids in years. And in that moment, none of it became worth it. I didn't want to continue doing anything other than being at home and being there for my kids. And I had told myself that I had those early years of them that they would be too young to remember how hard I was working. You know, when they're older, they're not going to remember that I wasn't there for a few years because I was too busy, you know, making the business succeed. And I didn't get the business to succeed. I just struggled and struggled and struggled. And my aim was, from the time my first was born to about 2 years, that I was okay never being around. I would just work hard and that would set us up for life. How wrong I was. Another 2 years on top of that, we're now 4 years in, this event happens. And we were not doing well financially. I hadn't done business training. I was just trying to wing it and figure it out. Because I was a good electrician, I was a good solar guy. And so I figured that meant I could be good at running a business. And it's not the case. Sure, I was good at my trade, but I knew nothing about business, and I didn't recognize the need to study business as a whole separate entity. That came years later. Anyway, this particular event broke me, and we folded the business, shut everything down, and I went back to just working on my own. Because in that moment, nothing that I had done for the last 5-6 years at that point, none of it was worth it. Nothing was worth that price. I was okay if I had to be just work a regular job and sort of dull off my entire business hopes and dreams for my family. That became my entire priority. Now we've reset things up. I invested a lot into business development for myself. I did a lot of training to become better at business, and because of that, we still run the business, we still have the family. But it wasn't worth the risk at that point of losing the family just to continue to pursue something that wasn't working. And that was my big realization. And so in that, just the ability to recognize that having a business and having a family are both amazing. You need to strategize how you're going to do both. You need to have an agreement and an understanding in place of how you're going to do both. And it needs to be a recognition that some days you're going to have to prioritize certain things in the business. Some days you're going to have to prioritize the family. And be very aware of keeping that forefront of your mind, that you haven't gone 3 months, 6 months and not prioritized your family. And yes, it is going to slow down your business journey because you can't dedicate 100% of your effort to the business. That's the reality of having a family involved in business. And so I know that how that all happens is different for everybody. I know that some families are going to be able to sacrifice far more on the business front, and other families are going to need to sacrifice far more on the family front. And so that may be part of the thing that you need to strategize and plan when you're even getting into business, is how much can we actually, where's that pendulum sit? What percentage are we going to dedicate to the business? How much to the family? What happens? What takes priority? These are all discussions, and this really all comes back to the very foundational premise of setting expectations. If you and your wife or your partner, I'm speaking obviously, I just realized I said wife or husband, wherever you are in that mix, if you sit down and agree and set expectations, then it makes life so much easier. If you just assume that it will be okay, but you haven't discussed it, you can assume that you're wrong. The other person has no idea what's going on in your head if you haven't sat down and discussed it. And I think more importantly, if you haven't agreed to what that's going to look like. So I just wanted to share that little epiphany that I had yesterday that I should share with you all. That running a business is a challenge. And when you mix it with a family, it becomes even harder. But there is a good way to figure that out and work around it and work with it. And it really comes down to communication, strategy, planning, discussion, and agreement. And so if learning business is something that you're interested in, then you can always check out our business growth project, which is a how-to business training platform. It is a step-by-step guide on the planning stage, what you need to understand, what you need to figure out, what you need to go through before you launch a business, then the things you need to get ready to launch your business, how to launch your business, and then how to grow and scale your business. So if you would like to learn the fundamentals of business, then consider joining us. Would love to help you on your business journey and hopefully help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made along the way, including knowing how to balance work and family. So I'm gonna get back to my coffee, continue my walk, and I will talk to you all again soon. See you later.